So welcome to Professional Development Webinars for English Teachers. We are meeting after a long break. So welcome back. I hope we will continue to conduct these webinars regularly. I would like to speak about the rules of our webinars first and to remind you of the rules. So you are welcome to use your video, but during speaker's presentation, we would like to ask you to mute yourself, just not to interfere with the speaker. And the speaker will be using the keywords, and you will have to provide these keywords when you will be providing the feedback for the speaker and completing the feedback form. So let me introduce the speaker today. This is Anna Tonkikh. Anna, hello, and
Hi.
Thanks again for doing this webinar and this presentation today for the teachers. So I was presenting Anna in spring, I guess, and she did a great webinar on IELTS and TOEFL preparation. So Anna is a Cambridge University graduate. She has a master's degree in education and she is Delta qualified specialist. She works as a director of studies at Lingua Grad Language Academy, which is an English exam preparation center. So Anna in Pavlodar, right?
Yes, I am.
So also Anna coordinates, designs, develops, and teaches IELTS preparation courses, academic writing, critical thinking, and SAT courses, as well as short teacher training workshops, courses, and webinars. So again, thank you, Anna, for doing this today. And now the floor is yours, so you can share your screen if you like.
Yes, I will gladly share my screen. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you. And dear participants, please give us some reaction or response either in the chat or using your audio. And you're welcome to ask questions.
All right, so shall I start now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, awesome. Really great. Thank you very much for such a great introduction, Yelena. Really nice to see you again. And great to welcome you all here. Thank you very much for being here so late on Wednesday. This was quite an old photo. As you see, I don't have banks anymore. I'm now bankless. All right, so the name of today's session is Listen Up! Engaging learners through meaningful activities. So really soon I'm going to announce our session goals. But first, I'd really like to get to know each other a little bit. I know it's difficult to do, but it's still possible. And let's start with the I am. Can you please type in the chat box, who are you, for example, or what you are? For example, I am from Pavlodar. You can say like, I am busy, I'm sleepy, and other things. I would be interested to see who is who.
Okay, so I think I have to remind the participants to mute you. So I have an assistant, and also I will be muting you from time to time. So please mute yourself. Sorry, Anna, for interaction. Mute yourself. There is a button on the left at the bottom. So switch off your microphone. If you want to ask a question, you are welcome to switch it on, but I guess it will be a nice idea to wait for a break or when the speaker asks you, when Anna asks you if you have any questions, we will give you special time for that. Thank you, and sorry for interruption, Anna.
All right, great. So let's start with a quick introduction. I am from Pavlodar. You could be saying something about yourselves. I'd like to see that in the chat. Next fact about me is that I specialize in exams. What do you specialize in? Please type, because this may be then relevant to what we are going to be talking about. And the third one is I am here to share my experience in teaching listening. Why are you here? Even if you're here because your boss told you, that's okay. We're not going to tell anyone. Okay. All right. Many thanks for your answers. If you still need more time to answer, we are monitoring the chat. Please continue. All right. So we are here today because we are going to be talking about the skill which I feel is often overlooked in the classrooms. It's often slips like through the cracks in the classroom because not many teachers feel it's necessary to teach listening as a skill, and instead of teaching it in an open way. Very often it's just paired up with something else. For example, reading and doing a little bit of listening, or listening as an engagement activity, and then a big focus on writing and other things. So first, I'd like you all to make a quick list, either here in the chat or somewhere on the side. Try to write several things that you listened to in the last 24 hours. My examples are, today I was watching the news. I was watching the news last night. I was talking to my mom. I was listening to the radio on the way here, and I was talking to my students, listening to my students' answers. These are my examples. Can you please put a couple of your examples in our chat box? All right. Okay. So I guess all of you have thought about at least one example.
I'm so sorry for this sound. I'm in the office, and it probably means that I need to move to another classroom. Let's just move to make sure there are no extra sounds. All right. I'm sorry for that. Let's move on. All right. So I'm sure all of you have made some notes on something that you have heard, you were listening to recently today. And now I'd like you all to think about it in this way. Look at this diagram and let's compare how listening in the real world is different from listening in the classroom. And by listening in the classroom, I mean listening to something in an English language classroom. Look at this diagram and try to complete the gaps. Try to complete the words that are left here. I'm going to give you all 30 seconds to think about that. Just 30 quick seconds to think. I'm not going to test you, don't worry. I'm sure you all have some ideas. Now look at these suggested answers of mine. That listening in the classroom and in the real world, these are some things that we listen to. And these are some things that some reasons why we listen to these things. Quite often, these things are very similar. We often listen to tapes, some recorded dialogues and monologues, which in real life are represented with lectures. We listen to lectures, or we listen to the radios, or recorded music. It's the same as listening to songs. So I hope this diagram shows you that listening in the language classroom and in the real world are not that different, meaning that listening in your native language are one, and listening in English have actually a lot more in common than we are used to thinking. So now you may be possibly thinking that today I'm going to be talking about the stages of a listening lesson, where every lesson has to consist of these 3 very important steps, and that each step has its certain aims, which you can see presented here, and which every language course book is utilizing. So if you're here to listen about how to use the course book, the teacher's book that accompanies any course book, we're not going to discuss that, because this is something that you can read everywhere. And this is something that we have studied in our universities. Instead, my focus today will be these 2 things. Do you know what these are? These are actually 2 examples of different types of listenings that we are always engaged in. Yesterday, I read some statistics. Actually, we spent about 80% of the day listening. The same happens in a language classroom. About more than 70% of time, being in a classroom, we do listening, even without realizing that. listening in the world comes into form. Someone has their microphone unmute. Can you please mute it? Thank you very much. So listening comes in two different forms, interactional and transactional. You guys know the difference? If you know the difference, you can make some notes. We'd like to hear your responses. If not, there is nothing to be ashamed of. Interactional, this is when we interact for fun. You see these people smiling and possibly discussing some, I don't know, notes or some menu, deciding on what they're going to order together. Whereas these two guys, they don't really look like they're having fun, but they are only interacting and talking to each other because they need to. So the difference between interactional and transactional listening, interactional is what we do for fun. If you relate it to real life listening, what do we listen for fun? To the music, for example. We listen to films because we're having fun. Transactional is the kind of listening we do when we pursue some sort of aim. For example, buying a ticket. Buying a ticket, we don't speak one way. We actually listen to the information provided to us. We listen to the date when the train is arriving. We listen to the price and before we reach to the pocket for the money and so on. So these two kinds of listening need to be really presented in the classroom. Quite often in the classroom, we only focus on transactional listening by suggesting to do some functional practice, some dialogue practice, and so on. And whenever interactional conversations happen, teachers often just let this fun slip through the classroom, and they, instead of using this fun as an opportunity to test and teach listening, they just use it as speaking practice. Well, guess what? Listening never comes along. Of course, in order to listen to something, somebody has to be speaking. So yeah, it's right that we need to combine listening and speaking skills, but it doesn't mean that one needs to be prevailed. So today we're going to be focusing on this dilemma, teaching versus testing. Unfortunately, the majority of listening we do in the classroom, if you follow a course book, focuses solely on testing. We follow all these wonderful steps in our course books. We ask some questions, we turn on the recording, ask some questions, then we blame our students for not listening attentively enough, put the recording on again, ask them some questions, and maybe then use these questions to then continue the discussion. Well, guess what? If you want to develop listening, it doesn't work that way. All these examples of asking questions only test students' ability to listen. Most exams test ability to listen. Well, in order to be tested and to be tested at a good level, we do need to somehow teach listening first, develop the skill before we test it. So my idea is that testing comes second. First, we need to be focusing on teaching, how to teach listening. I was really lucky. When I studied and did my master's degree, my mentor was John Field, who was the author of a wonderful book, which I'm going to tell you about later, because the name of this book is the key phrase for today's session. Well, John Field specializes in listening, in teaching listening as a skill. And these are some things that I learned and developed through reading through reading his articles and notes and his research, and using some of these ideas in the classroom. And the 2 life hacks to teach listening are, so I don't know what your expectations are, but I do have some ideas about how instead of testing listening, we can teach it. And the first thing is, every listening task has some aims. When we set the task, we often set one of these tasks. For example, listen and tell us what the text is about. Listen and answer the questions, which is specific information. Answer true, false, find some mistakes, listen and write, listen and reorder, and all these are possible. So put a plus in a chat if these are the examples of common tasks that we often see, that we often go along just because the book tells us. And if the students are successful, we are like, yeah, they did it. I'm a good teacher. But if they fail, instead of blaming ourselves, we tend to blame the students, saying that, oh, well, you didn't listen attentively enough. Oh, well, you didn't do it good enough just because you didn't listen to my instructions. But maybe we shouldn't be putting all the blame on the student. And maybe we shouldn't feel bad about turning on the recording again. Yes, there is a common argument. People often ask me, but how can I turn on the recording twice, 3 times in the classroom if on the test they will have only one chance to listen to the recording? This is an invalid argument, I would say, because in a classroom, we're supposed to be teaching. And teaching, grammar, for example, we allow mistakes and then we work on these mistakes and then we teach the grammar aspect again. So we are very tolerant of mistakes in grammar, but for some reason, when it comes to listening, teachers are not very tolerant. Well, my idea is that it's okay to turn on the recording several times, because you can turn on the recording and give students one of these wonderful tasks. Then if they succeed, well done. But check, maybe they succeed only in these tasks. Maybe they are only good in getting the main idea and they have no idea how to take notes. So how about listening to the text again, but changing the task? So it's a good idea to vary the text types and the tasks. If the need arises to play the recording several times, not to feel bad about yourself, it's a good idea just to change the task. This is one life hack. It's not even the second life hack, but a variation of the first is the following. Again, when my colleagues tell me, oh, Anna, you teach IELTS, so do you only play the recording once? I always say no. If necessary, I played it 2 and 3 times. But every time playing the recording, I try to adapt either the task or the speed. And you wouldn't believe that, but you can actually very easily change the speed of the recording. I'm sure that nowadays many of you don't use CD players in the classrooms. Instead, you use MP3 or any computer. And has any one of you used the standard feature in a player which changes the speed of the recording? This is a very nice built-in feature that every media player has. Sometimes I hear people telling me that, oh my God, I'm not so technically advanced as you are. Believe me, I'm not technically advanced. I only know how to use the media player which I have, and the one I have is a standard for Mac. But I know that the majority of you use a standard Windows media player. So before the session, just like 15 minutes before the session, I went online, and this is what I found. It's actually really easy. Let me show you that. Are you able to see my screen? So this short video tutorial is on how to adapt the speed of your standard media player. This is a standard media player that every computer has. Look at how the speed can be adapted. Shallow waters never know what I... Follow the cursor. All right. Go to enhancement and choose play speed. There you go. One more time. Enhancement, play speed settings. Look, it can be normal, it can be fast. And now you just change the speed. So fast. Look. So this is like a 2-second tutorial showing how to change the speed. Very often we have different level students in the classroom, and they may be may not be wanting to listen to the recording again. So one thing you can do here is okay, like that. One thing you can do here, you can say, okay, so the successful students, please listen to the recording at the highest speed. The less successful students, listen to it one more time. This is a thing which is really easy to arrange in every classroom. If you are not good at watching the tutorials, which I'm more of a visual learner, so I prefer to actually read through instructions. I have copied and pasted instructions on how to do this little trick in every Windows Media Player on a standard website. If you go to the chat, you will see the written instructions. Okay? Try that in your classroom, and believe me, some of your students will be really surprised. Those who were actually successful at first will learn that, oh my God, so if they speak a little faster, I'm not that successful. So that could be a lesson to teach someone, or not. So let's continue with the life hacks. The first life hack was vary the text types, vary the tasks, and let me also add here, vary the speed. Oh, next time I'll add it. Let's go to the next tip of mine. The next life hack is give students a good reason to listen. The aim that is written here, it's actually your aim. It's not the student's aim. Believe me, when students come to learn a new language, the aim is not to reorder the jumbled dialogue, and their aim is not to be able to write when somebody dictates. Their aim is to listen and understand. They just want to understand. So if the reason is specific information, it's not good enough reason for a student who wants to understand, because maybe he doesn't want to know, for example, where is this person going? Maybe, I don't know this person. I don't know where he's going, and I don't care where he's going. So this is not a really good reason, and maybe a good thing is to adapt the instructions given to the in the course book to a more real-life setting and change it. For example, look at this standard activity. I'm sure you have done something like this when you were younger, when you were at school, when we were trying to find differences on the pictures. It's a very standard task, which can be found in any kid's book. Well, try how it works if you give different pictures to different people. Instruct them not to show the other people, and have them, or put their back to back, for example, to ensure that they don't see each other's pictures, and make them talk to each other. Describe the picture in detail. Believe me, the fact that you are unable to see the other version makes you interested, makes you really, really, really interested, and you become more attentive. Such activities are actually quite popular when we teach, for example, directions, and we give different pictures to students and ask them to complete the directions. But for some reason, it doesn't go beyond that. I teach exams all the time, and I do use these tricks in my exam classrooms. And students love it because they, instead of listen to some lady on my computer talking to some other lady doing something and answer the questions, that's not that interested. Instead, the instructions are listen to your partner, to your classmate, to the person who has the same listening problems as you are. Listen to this person attentively and try to complete the gap of information. Not being able to see really motivates students. Try that and maybe you will see some genuine interest in the listening task. So why such information gap activities are interesting? Because they are engaging. They create real interest. People are curious. Students are curious. When you strip them of the ability to see something, or when you show this only to one person out of the whole class, it creates genuine interest. And just like many other activities, it practices two skills simultaneously. While one person who's, for example, listening is better than the other team members can practice his or her skill of speaking, describing the picture, the other people in the group will be listening and practicing and developing the ability to listen for detail because they're looking for the differences, details in the picture. Okay? At this point, do we have any questions? No questions? Are you sure? No comments?
Anna, I think there was one question from Tatiana.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be the difference be an interaction and transaction? Interaction is two sides are active and can initiate the talk, whereas the transaction, one side is active and initiate the talk. Do you see this question in the chat?
Yes, I now see it. Yeah, it could be the point. It's possible. It's a possible difference, but it doesn't have to be only linked to how many people are speaking. Because sometimes transactional conversation leads to interaction between people.
Okay, and Rima has a question. Rima, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question? I can unmute you actually. Oh, you muted yourself, so you have to click on the...
Yeah, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. So I've got the question about the gap filling task. Thank you very much. So it was really interesting that it can be personalized. It's great. But if, like you said, that they can work in pairs and read and say, listen to each other. But in this case, just I'm afraid, will the students be able then listen to the native speakers speech? Because they get used to listening to each other, but when they come to the native speakers, will they be able to do the gap filling tasks when they listen to native speakers?
They would be. Practice shows that they would. The role of native, non-native, especially native speakers' pronunciations is overestimated in the classrooms. In the real life, your students are more likely to interact in English with non-native speakers of English. And I truly believe, because I teach exams, and in exams we have all kinds of accents coming, even though most exams are British, they still bring different accents to their recordings. So I support bringing variety of accents, and listening to each other is as good task as listening to a native speaker. If you are worried too much about listening to native speakers, then the very similar task could be adapted. If we talk about information gap activity, then you could just tweak the instructions a little bit. You could ask your students to listen to the recording, for example, of a person who describes the visual. And this is not just a random person. Tell them that my American friend or British friend or Scottish friend, I have a friend who is a teacher in Scotland. So I asked him to describe this, oh my God, embarrassing picture of me when I was very young. Guys, listen to this description. And, I don't know, draw or complete the gap, do something. And believe me, they're going to be so interested in, oh my God, what did my teacher do wrong? And this tweak of instructions is quite possible with a variety of tasks. Take a real recording taken from, I don't know, any course book. And instead of asking, guys, listen to John and Amanda speaking. Create a mini story. Who is John and who is Amanda? What are they speaking about? Change this and say, actually, guys, listen to Almaz and Sauleh, who actually are from Kazakhstan. They are locals, but now they're both studying in University of Lancaster. So they are talking about their work. Listen and complete the gaps. Believe me, such a little tweak of instructions really motivates, gives students a more realistic reason to listen. Because some of them, majority of students who learn English, their motivation is to go study someplace. So they would be, oh my God, this Sauleh and Almaz are now there, and the English is so good. So this might be an extra motivation. I hope I answered your question. Yes? No? Yes. Okay. And I remember you, Rima. Really nice seeing you here. Thank you for being here. All right. Awesome. Okay, so shall we move on to another activity, which is possible?
So there is one more comment from Tatiana. This is the idea that while listening to recorded speech, they have to notice the difference between live pronunciation and recorded and fluent speech.
Absolutely. This is something that was overlooked in the classroom beforehand. We were mostly listening to only adapt conversations that accompany the books, where even the speed is adapted. But now more publishers actually bring real life speech, bring connected speech to the course books. And this is something that we as teachers need to start learning how to teach. Teaching connected speech is amazing. Teaching connected speech and noticing the difference between what we see, what we pronounce grammatically, and how people actually use it is a completely different aspect that I could talk forever about. A good example was done by my theater teacher a long time ago. He just told us that he came in and he said, digit. And we were like sitting and looking at him. What did he say? He's like, digit. And we were all like puzzles, like, what does it mean, digit? And only one guy, and that happened in America. All people except me were locals. They were native speakers. And only one guy who was particularly from some southern state noticed the pattern. And he was like, he's saying, did you eat? Did you eat? Did you? The y sound moved to j, and together it sounds like jit, jit, jit. Even local people didn't understand that because it was quite a specific accent. And there are lots of examples like that. So this is a very interesting thing that we can teach real life pronunciation and other kind of pronunciation. Bookish pronunciation. Yeah? Right. If we have no more questions, we can move on to my other life hacks and activities. There are a couple more coming. Okay. Is that fine? Can I move? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So, I'm so sorry. Can you give me a second? My phone is ringing and my kids are alone. Yeah. Hello. Okay. Okay. Yes, Mom. Absolutely, Mom. Hey guys, you must be thinking, oh my God, that is so rude. What is she doing? But did you notice the questions?
You were muted.
Can you see the questions on the screen?
Mm-hmm.
So who
Yes,
was
we
calling?
can, Anna, but I decided to mute you.
I know. So who was calling? Who was listening?
Your mom was calling.
So was that an emergency?
Yes, I think because of your children.
I said, no, it's okay. He just had compote. It wasn't an emergency. But did you hear why they were calling? Do you get the point of the activity?
Yes.
That was done just to check how attentive you are, if you're listening to me or not. This trick is called fake phone call, and it can be easily used in any classroom, because quite often students are just lose interest in what's happening in the classroom, and teachers just don't really have real life conversations. We just play what the book tells us to play. But what if you do something like that and you have a real life conversation? Of course, in a natural, in a setting where English language is in the environment, in an English speaking environment, this is a much easier thing to do. So usually I would be doing a little differently, because I wouldn't have teachers listening to me. Instead, I'll be like, I'm so sorry, guys, my friend from America is calling. Okay, can you just give me a minute? And I go like, yeah, hi, Tara. Yeah, what's up? Okay, oh, I'm sorry, I'm in class. Where are you? Oh my God, really? Grand Canyon? Guys, she's at the Grand Canyon. And then a few minutes later, I'd be asking them questions. Believe me, when students hear a teacher speaking to some friend in a natural English, they pay so close attention, they have real reason to listen to this conversation. So that could be an experiment for your classroom. I tried it several times and always works fine. I tried fake or real calls. Sometimes I just set up my mobile to an alarm and pretend that it's a real phone call. I learned this idea by reading some blog. There is a teacher, I can't remember his name. If I find the blog later, I'll send it to you guys. This teacher teaches in Australia mostly to Chinese students in summer schools. So he has a rule. First, they learn something. For example, how to order something online, or how to buy tickets. They have listening, pre-listening activity. They do it in class. They talk about learn some vocabulary. And then he takes his phone, calls a real company which sells tickets, and has a real conversation and puts some comprehension questions for his students. This case, he teaches them how to behave and how to listen to transactional conversations. To me, this is really great practice. But for us, since we are in non-English speaking environment, we need to be a little bit more creative when it comes to setting such tasks. And they don't always go as planned. Like mine didn't really go that well at that. All right. So to continue, my point is, in order to teach listening, we need to introduce more live listening exercises. That could be phone calls, a dialogue with a colleague. This is a common practice at the school where I teach. For example, my colleague has a lesson, and I come in just to ask where my book is. So I just knock and say, I'm sorry, can I talk to you for a second? I'm sorry, do you know where the book is? She says, what book? And says, the blue one. She says, which blue one? I said, well, the dictionary, the Cambridge Big Dictionary. It's a really big book. And then the teacher turns to the whole class, who were possibly even doing something completely different, maybe practicing a grammar skill. And she goes, guys, did you see the book? And you would be surprised. Most students listen to such spontaneous conversations because they're interested. What is it the teachers might be talking about? Maybe they're talking about myself. Maybe talking about me. So they want to know everything. So this curiosity actually works to our advantage. Good thing to read the script from a book. instead of turning on some recording, just ask 2 students to read the script. You can ask your colleague with much better pronunciation to read it, and have your students to listen. Or you could do something like eavesdropping on another class. I do it sometimes. I send students to the corridor and tell them, okay, what is the other IELTS class doing? Are they having as much fun as we do? And they go and listen through the door, come back and say, no, they're doing this, or yes, they're doing this much better than what we are doing. Even though sometimes they say the other class is having more fun, my aim and and our common goal of improving listening actually is satisfied. Since I teach mostly exams, I have also prepared a couple life hacks how to teach exam listening, because people ask me about that all the time. And my first thing is try to relate all the listening tasks you set for exams to real life. For example, I teach IELTS. So when I teach section 1 of IELTS, which is a dialogue and on social topics, first I really focus a lot on prediction, and I elicit from students what could be the questions, what they might be asking, what could the other person be replying. I sometimes spontaneously assign, okay, you are the person who buys the ticket, you're the person who sells the tickets, you guys talk, make up details, and the other people in the group, they just listen and take notes. This teaches them that this IELTS exam is not just exam to put, I don't know, this result on the wall, or to only use this score to go to a better school. This IELTS exam preparation actually prepares them for life, which gives them, again, a much better reason to study better, to keep being motivated. Another idea that you could be using, for example, many exams actually check spelling. So one thing is when you turn on the recording and you ask, okay, listen to this person's name spelled out. And spell it. And they have no idea who this person is. Have you tried asking your students to just, I often do that. I tell them, okay, stand up, go to the board. One person stands at the board with a marker. And I ask just the other members, okay, think about the longest Kazakh name you have ever heard. Please spell it. And the team spells while one person writes it on the board. This way, they really listen because they're interested. Everybody would think of a different Kazakh name, which is long. Or I would be like asking them, could you spell out the name of your mom? This is a very interesting and motivating task because kids would love to, and the guys would love to share the name of their mom. And since actually we have an advantage here, Kazakh and Russian names are actually quite difficult to spell. By learning to spell the names in their culture, they will quickly understand such names as Johnson and Thompson and Marx and others. Also, we often ask them, listen to something and write the phone number. But what if we adapt it to real life and say, okay, guys, here's the list I have made for my class. You're all new students. So please go collect all the phone numbers, but you have to speak in English. You can't show, you have to tell. By doing this, they practice exactly the same skill which is tested on IELTS, but they understand that they will need it further than just IELTS. Usually such practice helps me to motivate students to tolerate listening better. One more second life hack that I learned over the years is while I teach the skill of listening, I teach them the SUBSKILLS. By SUBSKILLS, I understand such things as prediction, decoding, note-taking, and other things. Quite often, we just assume that these skills are given to our students, that they have them in their native language L1 and they're able to transfer, which is not always true. Not every person is able to transfer, and not every person has these skills already formed. For example, if I again use my experience of teaching IELTS, quite often I hear, oh, listening section 4, the listening to lectures is the most difficult one. In order to teach them how to follow the section, it's not enough to just listen as many lectures as possible. I hate this advice. That never works. I can listen to 500 lectures in Chinese. It's not going to make my Chinese any better because I don't know how to decode it. So quite often the problem of not understanding lectures is actually not understanding how to take notes while you're listening to lecture, because students that usually take IELTS, they haven't gone to university yet and they haven't sat through long lectures yet. They haven't really formed that skills. So I found this interesting way of doing that. I found this because I often teach online, and I'd like to share one interesting website with you. Let me just go again to my Safari page, and that would be website, this website. The website is called Video Note, and I, on purpose, I didn't open the site directly. I opened on the home page, and then I'm sure that many of you already have Google Drives. If you don't have a Google Mail, please set it up before you start using the Video Note. The Video Note is really good because it works with all these wonderful websites, which I'm sure everybody uses either YouTube or Vimeo in their lessons. So I just connect with my Google Drive, and this is what happens. It automatically, I have many accounts, so I'll go with my personal account. It automatically takes me to this interesting page. Where are you? Please start loading. Well, I wouldn't be able to make my point. I'm sorry. So the Video Note, come on. Why is it not working? Okay. The fact that it's not working is not a really big problem. We can do like this. There is some sort of internet problem. Is it 9 o'clock yet? Because very often at 9 o'clock, the YouTube and the related websites don't work. Yeah, it's nearly 9 o'clock. I'm sorry. I didn't know we'd get to this point by 9 o'clock when YouTube doesn't work. All right, then I'm going to make a quick video a little later on how to use Video Note. Just if I explain using my hands, it's really good. On one side, you connect to any video or any audio you want to listen to. In my example, we were going to listen to Aptis exam. And on the right side, you are able to take notes. For example, the recording goes 3 people talking. I can write anything I want. 3 people, 1 boy, 1 happy, 1 crying. And what it does, it automatically saves the notes and links it to the time that it was said. So if then I need to answer some questions, I just click on the note and it automatically jumps and replaces the portion which I missed. This way you train both, you train your students to select key features, make notes only on key details. And if they have a problem, which they often will, you show them how to solve this problem. This also allows them to then take the skill from the classroom and practice it at home. Recently, I've been much into developing autonomous learning, and this is one of the interesting things I found. If you guide the student how to use a certain tool, you often then find them using the tool at home on their own when they are more motivated to study something. So I'm so sorry that I wasn't able to show you that, but that's not my fault. That's YouTube's fault. So yeah, I was asked to not go over time. Therefore, my point is almost done. Okay. What you see now on the screen is the QR code, which will, if you scan it right now, which will take you to a page where I have collected some of my personal materials. The page actually looks like this. I really hope it's because I loaded it beforehand that it's going to show. The page looks like this, and you all have access to it. You're welcome to use it. Here you will find some useful materials that support this mini meeting of ours. You will find some useful readings by John Fields, who is my teacher. You will find some related webinars to watch that also talk about listening as a skill. You will find some interesting activities that put live listening in the center of the classroom. And you will learn about a new trend on whole body listening that works in kids' classrooms. If you have any comments or questions after the session, you'll be able to put them here, and I will see them at any time, even if you do it after 2-3 weeks. That's all I have for you now. And if you have any questions, we still have some time to discuss.
Thank you so much. Will you go back to this barcode just to make another note?
Absolutely, yes. Here it is. I can also copy the direct link and give it to you, which I will do and post quickly in the chat, because maybe not everybody has QR readers. So here is the direct link.
And probably the question not only to you, but every participant. If anyone knows the link or resources how to teach and how to guide our students with note-taking, I really would be grateful to you if you give me any link to these resources, because note-taking is a nightmare for our students, and how to teach them to identify these keywords, but not to jot down, because I noticed I administrate IBT TOEFL, and I've noticed the behavior of students that somebody, is like writing dictation. They tend to make every note, every single sentence, every word. But others, they're quite relaxed. So this is a huge difference, how to teach them to take the notes of keywords, but not of every single word.
If I may suggest just right now, I have found a long time ago, and I was given an interesting tutorial by IH London. I'm sure you can find it online. It's called Teaching Prominent Stress. Noticing prominent stress, we teach our students to notice keywords and only write down these keywords. And also, I have a couple of books on how to teach note-taking. I'll share it with you later.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. They include different graphic organizers. Oh, and I have one colleague. Her name is Ayash Mirzabekova. Maybe somebody knows her. She now teaches in Shymkent, by the way. She's from Pavlodar. She moved to Shymkent. She is a big fan of visual notes taking. It's a quite fresh trend and very popular among teenagers and among students. I have lots of resources which she has forwarded to me. I can share it with you later.
Thank you so much. But will you give the contact information of yours? Probably I can invite her to
Not
our.
a problem. Right now.
You don't have?
She can actually give a workshop on this.
So that's what I'm asking about.
A workshop for us here in Pavlodar on how to use note-taking and visual notes. Yes, she is on Facebook, and she's really active on Facebook.
Write just not name, okay? Name of yours.
Okay, I'm going to send it to you.
Okay, so actually, Anna, can I ask you to organize all the information you were giving us today and send it to me as a follow-up, and then I will organize a follow-up message to all the participants. Mm-hmm. And we will send you it together with the link to the feedback form. And you're welcome to ask your questions in the feedback form to Anna, or also using this Padlet link that Anna provided.
Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, so sorry that we have to finish at this point. So our webinar is only 1 hour. We have one more webinar next week. So the same time, the same link, And sorry for having this break, but now we will go back to our regular schedule at least once a month. And we have so many speakers who would like to present at these professional webinars. Okay, so any questions? Thank you so much for joining us today. We will send you a follow-up message as soon as the recording is ready, and Anna will send me all the materials. So make sure you complete the feedback form and provide the keywords. And write some questions and comments to Anna. I'm sure Anna would love to read them. And you can share the recording with your colleagues and invite them to our webinars too. Yuldus, you had a question. Actually, it is very easy to
follow ideas. I'll be happy. And please give me some feedback on how it goes in your classroom. My students loved it.
Okay, so also I wanted to tell that you can invite your colleagues to join our webinar by going to this website, YelenaF.com. There is a special form where they can sign up for professional development webinars. So as soon as they leave their email there, we will include them in our mailing list, and they will receive notifications about upcoming webinars.
Liliana, and will you remind about feedback and about certificates? As soon as we get the feedback, they will be assigned with certificates.
Yeah, so I've mentioned that at the beginning. So please complete the feedback form, and then Tatiana will process your certificates and mail them to you. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us today. Anna, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. You are always making some presentation, you are always providing some material that not so many people are familiar with. So thank you so much for being in the new trends. And life hack about the media player. Everything was useful, brilliant tips. Okay, so thank you so much, and I will see you next Wednesday at the same time. Bye-bye.